can do this. There we go, balance. It's great to see you. We had a great time yesterday. We had so much fun. If you were part of a team yesterday, can you just give me a wave, please? Amazing. You are so good. Let's give these guys a round of applause. Thank you so much. If you don't know what we're going on about, if you're going, what on earth are they talking about? Why do they keep clapping these people? As yesterday we had a family fun day here. This room was just carnage. If you find little Nerf bullets around you, then that was happening over there. There was Nerf fights going on. I think if it's anything about like my house, we're going to be finding those Nerf bullets for the next 3 years. Right? That's how that works. If you don't know what Nerf guns are, bless you. Wow, you're good. My son wanted to bring his and say, "Oh, can I shoot you, Dad?" No, you can't, and not this morning either. So it was good, but just amazing. I think it was just great. Outside, there was music, there was magicians, there were escape acts. It was so good. And a special thank you to John Champion. Are you still there? There you are. Stand up, mate. Stand up. Come on. I'm going to make you do it. Now, John will say, I didn't do anything, it was my team and all this rubbish. Don't let him get away with it, right? You did a great job, mate. You really did. You organised it amazingly. And like I said before, when I thought of this kind of crazy idea, when we came up with this idea as a team, we said, who could we get to organise this? Oh, we know. John, he'll do a good job because he captures the heart of it, this whole thing of outreach through a community heart. You know, you carry that, but I think it just went so well yesterday, so I loved it. Really good. Another little notice as well, before I get into the word, looking at the time, oh my goodness, right, we'll be fine, is Long Stratton. I need to tell you about Long Stratton. So Long Stratton, next week, will be the last time they meet in the afternoon. I know, sad, aren't we? But that's because they're moving to the mornings in September, which is great, and they're going to every other week as well. Hey, which is good. So John and Jen and the team, I'm so looking forward to this. This is a big step, I know, and it's a significant moment for Long Stratton. If you don't know the journey, we had a life group in Long Stratton who said, oh, could we put on a meeting kind of like, you know, in the afternoon just to explore who turns up? And 80 people turned up. And we went, oh, right, okay. So for 2 years, we've been kind of running every other, sort of once a month kind of thing over in Long Stratton as a meeting just to keep it kind of tickling along. But these guys are taking on the leadership of it and have said, right, let's go for it. Let's go for every other week. Let's go for morning meetings. We still want a great venue, praying in for a venue in Long Stratton, aren't we? Which would be good. Wacton's good, but we want one in Long Stratton. But what I would say to that is that if you could prayerfully consider whether you could be something called scaffolding, okay? And you're like, well, you what now? Right, scaffolding is people who say, I'm going to commit 3 months, 6 months, a year to being in that site to help it really get off the ground. And we really need some people to go and help do that over there. We've got a great team. We've got good people there already, but a few more families or a few more couples or a few more individuals going along and saying, you know what, I'm going to come along to you like once a month or maybe commit to every other week. That would be amazing, and it would really build the church there. So if you want to be scaffolding, it's like when a building site goes up and you get the scaffolding around the outside. We're going to have some very soon out the back. But you know, you want people like that. So really do, even if you don't listen to me for the next half an hour, right? Pray into that and say, what is God calling us to and calling me to? And maybe you could give them, you know, like I say, 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. That would be amazing. We're not asking you to move there. It's all right. You might end up doing that, just to warn you, but that's not what we're asking, just some people who go along and help these guys. If you are interested in that, if God hits you between the ears right now, go and speak to these guys. John and Jen, just stand up quickly so they know who you are. Go and speak to these guys at the end, and they'll love to hear from you. All right? Yeah, well done, guys. Right, I prepared a preach that had 3 parts, and I reckon we're going to do 1, possibly a half. We'll see how we go. I don't know what happened to you this morning when your alarm went off. I don't know how you kind of react when your alarm goes off in the morning. What happens to you? Are you somebody who's like jumping out of bed, ready to go? Here we are, face the world. Yeah, come on. Or are you like, where's the snooze button? No, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. I've noticed something, having had children who've gone through the young children phase into the teenage phase, what has happened is they have gone from that ability to instantly leap out of bed in a moment to being like you need a small atomic device to wake them up at lunchtime. Right? I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but that's something that I have noticed when it comes to this, that this kind of waking up thing takes a little while. And as you get older, maybe it's just me, But it just starts to get a little bit trickier again until you start waking up in the middle of the night for some other reason. I don't know. I'm speaking to myself here, I know. It's just me. It's management. And now I think that the church, the UK church, right? The UK church is much more akin to a sleepy teenager than it is to an alert, ready-to-go toddler. Okay? And I think we need waking up. And I think God does that. He brings us into places where he gives us a really good shake. He says, come on now. Come on, it's time to wake up. And the trouble is, we tend not to notice. I don't know if you've noticed that the last 5 years, quite a number of large world events have happened. We've had wars, rumors of wars. We've had global pandemics. We've had all sorts of things happening in political realms which are just bonkers. Instability. We've seen famines that the news doesn't even bother to report on anymore. The world is being shaken, and the church in the UK is hitting the snooze button. We cannot afford to hit the snooze button. When I worked for Tear Funder a number of years ago, it's a charity organisation, and they were talking a lot back then about donor fatigue. And what that means is that people just get used to seeing the images on TV, which drives people to give. So when you see like the child kind of starving in Live Aid or Band Aid, some of you are old enough to remember those, that elicited a significant response from the UK as a whole in terms of giving generously. The same images used now just mean nothing. People are no longer stirred because their hearts are hardened. And I think what happens is we get used to living in uncertain times. It's like all this stuff that's happening in the world, we kind of get used to it and we go, oh yeah, that's just life. And God's going, no, come on, wake up. Wake up. This is what it says in Hebrews 12, verses 26 and 27. At that time, his voice, God's voice, shook the earth. But now he has promised, yet once more I will shake not only earth, but also the heavens. This phrase, yet once more, indicates the removal of things that are shaken, that is, things that have been made, in order that the things that cannot be shaken may remain. These different types of birth pains, or these different kinds of shaking, we read about in Matthew 24:8, where Jesus said, watch out that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many, and you will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. What Jesus is saying is that all of these things that have been going on throughout history, yet we know more about now than any other generation that's gone before us because of media and how it works, are birth pains of a planet waiting for Jesus to return. They're going, look, that the earth is like going, I can't wait until Jesus comes back because he's promised that he will return. He's promised that he's going to come back. And all of these things that we see in the earth are the earth shaking and God shaking and going, come on now, wake up. Jesus is just round the corner. Now, when we look at these different things, we have to say, well, what's the cause of them? And as we've just read there, God can be doing the shaking. He does shake us. But we also recognize we live in a world that is completely broken and fallen away from God's ideal. And so even in its nature, things like earthquakes, stuff like that, they are the result of a planet which is broken. And then the devil is the other person who has power to come along and shake things too. And what we need to be awake to, what we need to be aware of is which one of those is happening so that we get the right response to it. When we see a world that is broken, our response should be, we need God. That should be our instant response to that. Our yearning for the return of Jesus should increase when we see suffering on that scale. When we see the devil at work, we go, right, okay, that's not on. You have no authority here. And that leads us to pray against that, to use the significant weapons of praise and prayer that we have been given in order to engage in combat with an enemy who wants to kill and destroy. And when it's God who does the shaking, we have to go, oh, he's shaking us so that what remains is just him. That all of the trappings and all of the rubbish, all of the good old Norfolk word, squit, gets rid of, and we're just left with him. Steve Uppal says this, he says, there are a lot of human-made structures, human-made ideologies, and human-inspired value systems within the church, and we may not even realize it. Whether it is our love of entertainment, a holding of opinions that are contrary to the scriptures, or our inclination for popularity and comfort, much has crept in that needs to be shaken off. God's doing some shaking this morning. He wants to shake some stuff off of us. Now, how we respond to that will be one of two responses. It will either be fight or flight. Flight is where I just want to get out of this place. I don't want to be in God's presence. I don't like it. I don't want to be near it. Or it can look like denial as well. It can look like I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to go near it. Those images and those pictures and that stuff that I get kind of sent to me, I don't want to know about any of that. That's denial. That's also a form of flight. Fight is where you go, that's not me. That's not me. But actually, the fight that we're called to is a fight of prayer. I think this shaking is stirring us to a place of prayer. This shaking is stirring us to a place where we become alert to what God is doing. This is what it says in Mark 13. It says, but concerning that day or the hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Be on guard, keep awake, for you do not know when the time will come. It is like a man going on a journey when he leaves home and puts his servants in charge, each with his work and commands the doorkeeper to stay awake. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening or at midnight, or when the rooster crows or in the morning, lest he come suddenly and finds you asleep. And what I say to you all, I say to all, Jesus says, stay awake. A number of years ago, I did the tall ships race. I sailed all the way from Plymouth down to Lisbon. It took us 5 days from memory. And it was a 3-masted schooner. There was a crew of about 45 to 50. We were split into 3 watches. And each watch had about 12 to 15 people in it. And the watch would be, you'd have 4 hours on. You'd have 2 hours on standby. You'd have 4 hours off. You've had 2 hours on standby. You'd have 4 hours on again. And when you were on watch, you were scanning the horizon. At night time, you're looking out for lights. You're looking out for anything in the sea that's untoward. You're looking out for all these different things that are happening, because there's a lot of stuff out to sea. You'd be surprised. But you'd see a light on the horizon, and you'd notify the officer of the watch and say, hey, look, horizon, whatever angle it is, it's over there. And you keep track of it. It's like, right, is it coming towards us? Is it going away from us? What's happening? Because when you're at sea, it takes quite a long time to change direction, particularly in a sailing vessel. You can't just like put the handbrake on or put the brakes on all of a sudden or decide, oh, we'll go left now, right? You have to get everybody ready. It takes about half an hour to an hour just to change the sails. It takes time. And all of a sudden you can find yourself with a great big oil tanker coming across your bow. We're to keep watch because our lives are much more akin to a sailing vessel than they are to a car. It can take time for things to change. The patterns and processes most of us have got into are there because we have led a life that has got us to this place, and to radically change those in a moment just because something happens and comes across it won't work. Instead, we need to be alert to what is happening around us so that we can adjust our course readily and easily and in time to avoid any collisions. This is not passive watching. It's not like, oh, Jesus is going to return soon. I better just stare out the window. Is he here yet? Is he here yet? Is he here yet? We're not like a Labrador waiting for their master to return. Like, are we there yet? No, not like that. We're much more like some lifeguards I saw in a water park in America once. Right? When we see lifeguards in the UK, sometimes they're sitting in those chairs. I'm being recorded. Often teenagers, often looking quite bored. I'm suggesting. Maybe you've got a different experience of it. But when we were in America and we saw these lifeguards, each one had a little route, which was kind of like by the side of the pool, by the length of this stage, right? And they had the sunglasses on and the hat. They looked like Baywatch. It's like that. Some of you are like, I know who watched Baywatch now. Excellent. And they were like this. They were like this all the way through. They didn't stop. Like, they were just walking backwards and forwards, scanning all the time. They had those really cool float things underneath their arm, right? And they're just walking around like this the whole time. I was tired just watching them. I'm on holiday. I don't need to watch that. It's exhausting me. But they were so alert and ready for anything that might happen in a moment. That state of alertness is where we are meant to be. We're meant to be a people who are alert, who know how to act. We're expectant for Jesus' imminent return, yeah? Okay, some of you are alert. Excellent. That was a test. We should be. The early church thought Jesus was going to return literally the next day. Now, this is weird because they also thought that he might not return the next day. So we live in this place of expectancy that Jesus could return this afternoon. Does your life look like it should if he returns this afternoon? Okay, everybody's avoiding my eye contact. I don't know why. Right. We need to change our lives, I would suggest. We need to get in a place where if Jesus returned this afternoon or tomorrow, we're A, right with him, but also B, living in a manner which is focused on his will and his kingdom. Let me just say today, if you don't know Jesus or if you've been away from him for a while, today is your day to sort that out. Because he could return today. Our lives should be dominated by an expectancy and an urgency for the gospel. It is no good saying, I'll tell my friend tomorrow. It's no good saying, I'll start my time with Jesus next week. It's a now deal. It's a change your life now. See, I know that the flesh is weak. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he said to his disciples, will you watch and pray whilst I go and spend some time with my Father in heaven? As Jesus is away, all of the disciples fall asleep. Jesus comes back to them, wakes them up, and he says, no, come on, watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. 1 Corinthians 6:13 says, be on guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong. I think a lot of us have got to a place where we have fallen into spiritual atrophy. What do I mean by that? Well, apparently, let me tell you the story. My youngest has started pre-season football training already. And part of that is going to the gym. And one of the things he does is high-impact training, HIIT training. I went with him. You may work out where this is going. I managed to do the first loop of all this, right? I managed to do most of the second one, and I was like, I need to stop now. Otherwise, something is going to explode inside of me, and it will not be pretty. right? He's still going, right? He's got energy for all of us. But it's like this. And I was speaking to the guy about it. He was like, well, have you done any upper body stuff recently? I was like, no. He says, well, this is the deal. After 2 to 3 weeks, your muscles start to go. It's called atrophy. 2 to 3 weeks. So all of those of you who went to the gym in January, that benefit is long gone, right? Long gone. Spiritual atrophy is the same. Anybody here find praying hard? I'll be honest with me. I do. I find it hard. Why do you find it hard? Because you don't do it enough. If we don't do it enough, you don't build your spiritual muscles up. Also, prayer is war. It's hard. Right? It's hard work. You're lifting weights. You're lifting heavenly weights when you start praying. Spiritual atrophy is a problem. You're like, yeah, I used to tell my friends about Jesus back when. Guess what? That muscle, that's wasted away. I used to put the kingdom first. I used to. You get the operative word here, used to. Our lives should be defined by the imminent return of Jesus. The expectancy that he could return. And that means leaving legacies for the next generation so that they can live in the same way. I'm not calling everybody to give up their jobs and all that stuff, right? The Bible talks about that. But I'm saying, no, we should have an expectancy for his return. Can we all stand together? I just want to give a bit of time to God right now just to minister into hearts. There's no real agenda other than he's just going to come and speak to us. I think he's going to come and start to stir up hearts now. So just close your eyes. I think the word earlier where we've got the Lego flowers and we've got him squeezing hearts, and he's stirring up people, even that individual that Joe was talking about. There's a real sense God wants to do something this morning around that. Jesus. Heavenly Father, we just invite you into this space now. You might just want to invite him into your own heart. David's prayer did it for us as a corporately, but individually you might just want to say, hey, just want to invite Jesus. Just want to invite you into my heart. Well, you know you haven't been as awake as you should be. You know you've hit the snooze button. I think he just wants to wake up now. It's like he's shaking you. It's like he's shaking you. Thank you, Jesus. Psalm 51:10, the psalmist cries out, "Create in me a pure heart, O God. Renew a steadfast spirit within me." Father, I just want to say where we have been sleepy, where we've fallen into the stupor that the world offers, we just want to say we're sorry. We want to turn away from that. John Piper said, "The greatest enemy of hunger for God is poisoned by apple pie. It is not the banquet of the wicked which dulls our appetite for heaven, but endless nibbling at the table of the world. It is not the X-rated video, but the prime-time dribble of triviality we drink in every night." Today's a day to reject the poison that the world has been poisoning us with. There's a scene in the movie Braveheart where William Wallace is about to be tortured and hung, drawn, and quartered, and he's offered by a princess a drug that will null the pain. And he's like, no, I don't want that. I want to be awake and alert. But if God's just putting things in people's minds right now which are dulling your sense of God, He's dulling your sense of God. And those are things just to repent of now. A man called Ray Kroc, who turned McDonald's into a franchise, said, I believe in God, family, and McDonald's. But in the office, that order is reversed. Work and family are good things, but they're not God. I think God's just putting some priorities in people's hearts this morning. He's just changing some orders around. Things you've put in place which shouldn't be there. He's just changing. Jesus, thank you. It'd be good to pray for people this morning. We've got a bit of space at the front, so I'm just going to invite you, if you know God's been stirring something up in you over this, I'm just going to invite you to come to the front. We want to pray for you. If you know you've been living a life which hasn't been expectant of Jesus returning imminently, that you've started to be dull and all those things, just come to the front. We'll have the ministry team pray for you.